Hi, I am with Gene Fisch Jr., who is the organizer and director of the New York New Works Theater Festival. Gene, could you tell us a little about yourself first, please?
It's going to be a short conversation. He was telling the truth. My name is Gene Fisch Jr. Each year I try and do a fun give-back project, something where we see something that isn't working as well as it should be, and we try and go in and fix it.
And what's not working as well as it should be?
I think the theater festival scene in general. A lot of playwrights who have tremendous amounts of talent are limited by their resources, and myself and a group of friends thought it would be a great opportunity if we went in and picked out a space that was a top-level space, organized a team of management that were Broadway level, AEA level management, and provided that to these talented playwrights to give them a platform where they could perform their work.
So how did the festival actually get started? How did you organize it? How did you get the people involved that were the panelists? How did you get the people involved who were submitting material to the festival? How did they find you? How did you find them?
There are a lot of stalkers in this world. No, it was very simple in its beginnings. I had several friends who were entering these festivals and paying thousands of dollars. And I said one year, I'm just going to throw a festival. And we'll give them the resources I just described. And I'll also bring in a bunch of friends from the Broadway and television communities to come and review the work and get excited about seeing the shows. And it started off very small. I believe there were 25 participants. And usually I only do these give-back projects once. Each year I'll do something very, very different. And the success was overwhelming. I mean, some of these shows were getting interest from producers, and that was exciting because it was working. You never know how it's going to come to pass, but it was actually coming to fruition. People were getting mentorship and help. So I said, let's do it again, and let's do it again. And a lot of name brand shows and people started coming and being participants. We've had a Broadway revival, which is tremendous. This year we have an unpublished work by Bernard Pomerantz, who was the creator of The Elephant Man on Broadway. We have a tribute by one of our panelists, who's a very renowned producer. She is producing something on behalf of the women's movement. 12 Angry Voices, which used to be 12 Angry Men, but they're making it 12 Angry Voices by 12 impassioned women. And it's going to be stars from the Broadway community reading the parts for Lauren and for the festival. It's going to be awesome. It should be a lot of fun. So,
and tell us who Lauren is.
Lauren Schneider. She's produced several Broadway shows. She's involved with the Tony Awards, the Drama Desk Awards. She does Broadway at the White House. Tremendous force. I believe she runs the Broadway Fantasy Camp. And she's just established herself as a real font of inspiration in the Broadway community.
And how do you know her? How did she find you, or you find her, or how do you know her from ancient history?
She'll love this story. She gave me cookies. No, you laugh. That's the secret. She gave me cookies. We became friends, non-business related, because I'm not in the entertainment industry. I'm doing this purely as a fan who loves theater and loves fixing things that are broken. She and I became legitimate friends. She's been my mentor in the community. She's given me guidance. She's been there, as have many of the panelists, but from minute one of this festival's creation. She's very involved with women's rights, the Me Too movement, very involved in setting the stage for doing right in this country.
Two questions that brings up. One is mentoring that we'll come back to, and the other is, why did you give you cookies?
I solicit the cookies, I'm not going to lie. But she adhered to the solicitation. Why did she give me cookies? We worked together on a project initially. She was introduced by a friend of mine.
A theater project?
It was a theater project, yeah. It was a project with Kathleen Turner.
And hi, I saw that.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it.
It was a good show, right?
Yeah, good show.
Ask me what my contribution was to the ending.
What was your contribution?
I can't tell you because I've got trouble. No, but that was a great project. We had a lot of fun, and she and I became friends. And so, as I mentioned, that's how we got involved together.
So mentoring, you've talked a lot in the literature about this festival. It says a lot about mentoring. How does the mentoring work? Who mentors whom? To what extent? When? How?
Mm-hmm. You know, during the festival, anyone who wants notes can get notes on their shows. We have several people who will approach me and say, you know, what can I do to make my show better? And we have an extensive list of notes that I will give them. And some people don't want notes at all, but those who want notes, we really try and help the show evolve because we want, if they can go to the next level, we'd like them to go to the next level.
When you say notes, is these notes that comes from the script or from a rehearsal or from the first production of the show, and who's seen the show?
The latter. The first production of the show, each night we try and have a couple of people from the industry present, and then we'll talk about the show itself. And that leads to where I was going next. A lot of times, relationships form between producers and the actual playwrights. And that's really the key. I think, getting notes is one thing, but we all develop our own relationships, and that's how we succeed in life. And if there are two people that click and develop a simpatico where one likes the show, they take an interest and help the show along. Like, as an example, we have one producer who is seeking out female participants to Stephanie Rosenberg. And she was seeking out her name is Stephanie. She was seeking out female producers because she wanted to take an interest in helping their work develop. I think that's fantastic. She met two young ladies who were participants a couple of years in the festival, named Lorelei and Kristen. Amazing talents, by the way. Lorelei and Kristen. And as they developed a relationship, she signed a right of first refusal for 3 of their projects. So it's about the relationship that develops. They may not actually have all of those projects in the festival, but now they've become friends, they've developed a dialogue, and they now have 3 of their projects signed with a legitimate Broadway producer, and that's awesome. So that's an example.
How do writers find you? There are people you know, but people who don't know you and haven't heard of the festival before, how are they likely to discover it?
A lot of it's through word of mouth. I mean, when you have, each year the festival has grown tremendously by the level of participant that's involved. Like, for instance, one year we had a show, Richard Blake, who's one of the stars of Bronx Tale, I believe Jen Denoria, who was Alphaba and Wicked, and several other members from the cast of Wicked and Les Miserables. They were in the festival, and that came from people saying positive things, like, hey, this is a great experience. So honestly, we don't do very much marketing. In fact, we do very little marketing. I'll try and develop relationships with panelists and people to come and see the shows. I call that marketing. But, we don't advertise in newspapers or things of that nature usually. And, we have a nice bevy of applications. So how they figure out, I assume it's word of mouth.
And once a show is up, these shows are mostly half-hour shows, right? You have a bunch of half-hour shows on each.
Between 10 minutes and 25 minutes.
On each matinee or evening performance?
Yes.
And when does the festival start?
September 4th.
And where is it?
It's at Theater Row. It's the premier theater of 199 seats in Theater Row. The Acorn Theater is what it used to be called, but now it's called just Theater Row.
And so it's a 199-seat theater. That's a lot of seats to fill. How do you find an audience? How does the audience find you?
I offer free ice cream. No, I mean...
And how do they choose the flavor?
Oh, no, open. I'm all about diversity when it comes to my ice cream treats. As far as how they find us, I think a lot of times there's a connection to the playwrights. A lot of people are friends of mine, and I'll say, hey, let me buy you a ticket to the festival. It really varies. I wouldn't say we have a lot of the public coming. We welcome everybody. They're welcome to come. I teach. I invite my students, and I invite anyone who wants to come, but you're really not going to see too many people who somehow don't have a connection to either the panelists or the participants.
Now, you personally have been interested in technology. To what extent, one of the interesting things about theater and virtual reality is that there's a very natural connection between the two. The connection is that immersive theater and immersive virtual reality have a natural flavor of being able to bring someone into the same space. Mm-hmm. You've experimented, I believe, with augmented reality. Mm-hmm. How do you think all these things fit together, and what is the place of that in theater?
See, this is a great question, because I can think of several theater or performances that would have been greatly enhanced if they used their virtual reality. Because in theater, the whole point is to take you away somewhere. You want to escape. You know, we have our lives. We're going to see a show where we can get captivated with the music, with the dance. And I think the visual experience of being transported to a whole nother world with the surrounding images and sounds coming from different directions, that's the way to go. So to answer your question, I genuinely think in 10 years, we're going to have a lot of shows like Fun Home, for instance, used a lot of virtual reality. There have been participants in the festival that attempted to use a lot of virtual reality. In fact, we once customized the entire stage so they could have their virtual reality experience for the audience. Fantastic. Except when it was 3 in the morning we were painting. But other than that, it was fantastic. That's the future of theater. I think if you look at shows, and I'm hesitant to name them, but there's a certain show that was on last year, and to be transported, if you had the virtual reality experience of being transported to a land of candy and all the magic that was involved with the show, had it been a virtual reality experience, I mean, people would have gasped. They would have sat there and been like, oh my God, I'm at the factory. Everyone knows what show I'm talking about. But it would have been an entirely different realm. Not that it wasn't wonderful as it was, but to incorporate what you just described would have taken it to a whole new level.
What do you think, in addition to that, is the future of theater, and what is the future of the New York New Works Theater Festival? Is it something you plan to continue doing every year? Or is it...
You know, that's a good question. What's that?
Or is it, I didn't finish the sentence.
No. You know, I intend to do these projects only once because they're not designed on their face to make money. I mean, anyone who knows the costs of how theater works. I mean, for instance, last year we were at the Duke Theater, and I think the participants, they chipped in a little bit to, have some skin in the game, but it was nowhere near the amount of the costs. So if we brought in sponsorships and things of that nature, this could be a viable business. I think as it stands now, I mean, it is expensive, and not that I wouldn't want it to grow. Why don't we just see each year how everything develops and what new things come on the landscape? As far as the future of this season, I mean, we're very excited because we have some great participants.
What are some of the most exciting shows that people should be looking for coming in this next episode of the Theater Festival?
It's hard to single them out until you've seen them.
Well, it's better for the people who have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's better for you to single things out so they know what are things they might try, than not to mention them at all.
Great question. I think one thing to try, if you were a potential participant, push the envelope. This is your chance where we lay out 100% of the costs. Okay, they don't have to give me anything until it's time for their show. So I'm laying out the money. This is a time when you're submitting, it costs nothing to submit. Push the envelope. Be different. Everyone has these cookie-cutter ideas of how the story should be. I mean, every year, there are numerous submissions that have, boy meets girl, girl meets boy, they fall in love. But how are they falling in love? Do something different. What I always tell the participants when they're in conversations with folks talking about their show, I always tell them, make yourself exciting. Don't do what everyone else has done, because we can all do that. I have no talent whatsoever, and I can do that. Push the envelope, make something special, and then you'll take over the world, because unless you try something new, things are going to remain the same. We had a show, I'll talk about one of the shows. This is from a festival past. We had a show, I remember they barely got in. Okay, a lot of discussion about this one show. It was very artistic, wasn't entirely my style on paper. When they got in, I remember they were the final show for the evening. It had been a very long day for me, and their show comes up, the lights come up, and it blew me away. It was fantastic. Trash Man's Dilemma by Bruce Gooch. Fantastic. It was a bunch of transients reciting Shakespeare. Their costumes were great, their acting was great, the writing was great, and if they were on off-Broadway right now, they'd be winning all sorts of awards. So you never know what's going to happen. And this was so far off the edge. You're talking about transients reciting Shakespeare. Like, have you ever seen that? I don't think so. So to watch them on stage, like, hit it out of the park the way they did, to this day, they're one of my favorites. So that's the example.
So please give me some people that are going to be in the festival, some names of panelists that are helping to mentor, and mainly some shows that people should be looking for.
Sure. Well, people in the festival, and we have a really eclectic group this year. Let's see, we have 2 Tony winners.
Can you name them?
I certainly can. Bernard Pomerantz, who I also named, and the other gentleman, his last name is Grisman. He's directing one of the show's participants.
What's the name of the show?
How Alpha Fell in Love.
And
something along those lines.
Pomerantz is a panelist, right? Or is he?
No. He has a show. He passed away a year ago, so he can't make it. But his daughter submitted a show into the festival on his behalf, and they're going to have.
What's the name of the show?
Miranda. And they are. It's a lovely show. It's never been published. It's never been seen, so people who come to see the show can enjoy it. But those are the 2 Tony winners. But then to get to the panelists, to talk about them for a second, I mean, we've had panelists involved from minute one. And they have different rationales for being involved. Some like helping young people. Some really want to help women. Some just love art. And at the end of the day, that's something very important to discuss because they're all here donating their time. That's one of the ways this festival differentiates itself. We have this cadre of people. Emily Pennick, who's absolutely wonderful. Our acquaintance has just come to pass, but you can tell when you meet someone how great they are and how much they just want to help people. Paul Slatkis, who's been involved from minute one. He's a great individual, been involved with over 150 Emmy TV shows. Carol Burnett, All in the Family, Sonny and Cher. Sean Dow used to be the CFO of Disney Europe. Now he produces movies. I can go down. Van Dien. I mean, he's one of the top Broadway producers right now, and he's very involved with the festival.
And when these are involved with the festival, they help select the shows that are going to come in.
Many do. Not everybody.
What actually do these panelists do? There's reading, there's watching the shows, there's mentoring. Who does what and how much of it?
Well, different panelists do different things, to be fair. I mean, we have a handful of folks that just got through reading scripts. They like reading scripts. So we try and select writers that have promise or in our minds have promise, and we take it from there. I think some panelists enjoy coming to the shows. I mean, Stephanie Rosenberg came to several of the shows, and she saw a couple of participants that she became attached to and developed a relationship, and now they signed on for 3 projects together. Gail Waxenberg picked up a young lady from our festival as a playwright, and she signed. They worked out an agreement where she presented an entire investment reading for a full-length version of that person's show.
And her connection with the people was through reading, or through meeting them, or through seeing the shows?
Those 2 met at the festival.
Mm-hmm. When you say met, they met because there was a party and networking, or they met because they went to the show, or because they directed, or what does that mean?
I think it means different things, but in that particular case, Gail saw, her name was Katie Schwartz, the young playwright. Gail saw Katie's show and talked to Katie after the fact and said, "Could I see a full version of the script?" I believe Katie sent her a full version of the script and developed it from there. And Gail brought in one of her colleagues. Gail's part of the New York Theater Repertoire. Gail brought in one of her colleagues, Marcus Potter, to direct the reading. They had the reading, and they brought a bunch of investors. And I know Katie got an agent through the festival who was in the audience and saw her. So I think that I'm not sure where that particular project stands right now, but that's how that relationship got cultivated.
So the festival now sounds very exciting. It's going to start September 4th.
Mm-hmm.
What day of the week is that?
I believe it's Tuesday, the day after Labor Day.
Day after Labor Day. And how long does the festival last?
Till September 22nd.
And where do people get tickets?
You can go through our website. Do I say that through our
Please.
All right. www.nynwtheaterfestival.com. www.nynwntr.com. And theaters with an R-E, I try and be fancy. So www.nynwntreFESTIVAL.com.
And so each play is shown how many times?
We're guaranteeing everyone at least 2 performances this year.
And after the 2 performances, you select some?
We do. We select 6 finalists for a finals gala on September 22nd. That is fantastic. Historically, every show in the finals gala, at least in my opinion, is a home run. And we expect this year to be the same.
And that is what day of the week?
I believe it's Saturday.
So it's a Saturday evening or matinee?
Going through my calculator in my head. I believe it's a Saturday evening.
Great. Okay, so I hope people will come and see this. It sounds like an extremely exciting festival. Hope that you'll do it next year, and if you're a writer or a director, you should get in touch with them, follow them, see what's happening in the theater this year, and come again next year. Thank you very much, Guy. Very nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you as well.